previously morning news anchor here on KEEL, now a reporter for WTOP in Washington, D.C. Hey, Mr. Dennis, thank you once again for taking time. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
My first question was, and I don't know if you heard it when you were on hold standing by, and I saw the photos that you posted on my and I think Erin's website of the site of the park where this took place. Mm-hmm. And I likened it to being in the center of Betty, Virginia Park between Line and Fairfield, there on the old baseball diamond, this huge open, this vast expanse of space. And a guy literally with a semi-automatic weapon coming down the hill with a gun. And the point was to execute as many people, as many of those Republican lawmakers as he could. First question, tell me about the topography of the park where all this took place.
So it's very flat. It's the neighborhood overall, I would describe it as kind of urban, suburban, kind of mix. It's a very urban, built-up area. There's actually, on one side of the park, it's an older neighborhood. On the other side of the park, there are a whole bunch of all these new apartments being built. So you can have this new and the old. And in between is this park. It's very flat, these baseball fields, and it's right next to a YMCA. And so it's very flat, it's very open, but I was able to see right from the outfield straight into where the dugouts are, and you can see the evidence markers on the field. So it's very flat, very open, and for someone like this gunman to walk in there, if you're not expecting him, I mean, it's.
What was the average distance? How far was he from the Republican legislators when he opened fire? How far was he when the security detail started returning fire? And what was the closest? What was his range when he was at his closest from his victims?
I'm not exactly sure of the exact distances, but I do know that it was relatively close. That I think he was basically at the park, and from what I understand, that he was in relatively close range of the legislators there on the field.
I mean, is your sense 20 or 30 yards? I had seen in some cases 20 or 25, maybe 30 yards, or even nearer than that. Do you get from the lay of the land? Do you get that sense?
Yeah, it's something along 30 yards or so is probably a good estimate. It's not like he was standing right next to them, but at the same time, he wasn't across the field or outside the field. It seemed like he was right there, right by a dugout, right there next to everyone.
How close are you to the field this morning? How close can you get, and what are you seeing?
So I'm about a couple blocks away now. I had to run and take care of a few things. But, I mean, you're able to, if you're watching all the major news networks, everyone's here, all the big city TV stations are here, from New York, Boston, wherever. They're all lined up basically right near the field. So you can get up pretty close to the field. Where I was probably as close as you can get. And I believe I'm not sure if you guys have the picture. I have it on my Twitter account that I posted yesterday. But you can basically go up right near the outfield fence, and you can look straight in, and you can see everything that's right there. So you can get pretty close. But today, it's all blocked off to the same perimeter as yesterday. So there are parts of the neighborhood that you can't get into. There's a supermarket you can't access, a CVS you can't access. But there are some areas where you can get right up to the edge of the park, and it's all marked off with crime scene tape. But you can get relatively close and see what's going on if you know where to go.
I don't know specifically what gun control laws are in Virginia. I would imagine that they're a lot more strict than they are here in Louisiana. What was the situation? A guy is still able to get hold of a weapon.
Well, Virginia is known for being very lenient with its gun laws. Virginia's MO is that it's kind of the gun capital for guns in New York. So a lot of people that are running guns, they'll come down to Virginia to buy them and then run them back up to New York. So that's the reputation that Virginia has. Now, the issue with the gunman is that he's from Illinois. And I'm not exactly sure where he got his weapons, if he bought them here in Virginia or if he got them in Illinois. Because if he got them in Illinois and brought them here to Virginia, well, it doesn't really matter what laws we have here. If you have the guns, you could, if you are motivated to do something to a point, you'll find a way to do it. So Dennis, I'm not sure where he got those weapons and that whole process.
Let me ask you, our last minute or so, I'm sure he pulled up in a car. It had to be parked there. What can you tell us about what they've done with that car and what they found in the car? Any word on that at this point?
A little backstory. He had been living here for about a year. He was living in a van, a white van, here in Alexandria, Virginia. And this is a little unusual, but one of my colleagues reported this morning that the former mayor of the city here had talked to this guy several times because he was the quote-unquote guy with the laptop at the YMCA, and he'd be there every single day. So he'd be here, and I'm not sure if he drove around with the van, if he just parked in the van and slept in that van right down the street from here. I'm not sure where that van is now, but he's been living in a van since he's moved here to Virginia, and he's been at that YMCA for a while, and no one seems to know how he was able to, determine that those lawmakers are going to be at that ball field, and specifically the Republican lawmakers, because he seemed to want to specifically shoot at Republican lawmakers.
Well, the report was that he had actually asked Representative Brooks from Florida down there on the field, are those Republicans or Democrats? Brooks, leaving the field, said Republicans, and so that's a real story, right?
Oh yeah, and I've heard that from other places as well. And I mean, I've been talking to neighbors all day, and I did yesterday too, and they had no idea that they were having practice there. They were like, the first thing we knew about congressmen being down the street from where they live was after the shooting happened, and it was all over the news. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they announced themselves. It wasn't this huge security presence. There were a few, Capitol Hill police officers here, but it wasn't this, motorcade where they blocked off entire sections of the neighborhood. I mean, it was just like any other organization having baseball practice there. You wouldn't have known.